Today we'll be reacting to The Drifty Typewriter, the bad season finale, Epidemic. I totally misread that, but I somehow still got it. So there's been epidemic of bad seasons. Okay, I think some of it's blown out of proportion. Stranger Things was that last fight sucked. I understand the Stranger Things hate. I didn't think it was as bad, but I get it. Especially that last fight. That last fight was rough. And I am also upset that the creators were so scared of offending people, they made the ending up to the viewers. Did 11 actually live? Or did 11 die? I don't know. That was also bad. Originally, I didn't hate it at first, but now sitting here thinking about it, yeah, that was bad. So it was, they definitely screwed up on the ending there. I don't think the last season though was that bad. Though, The Boys. I thought that final season was overrated for no reason. I thought it was solid. I thought the last season was just fine. That was pretty good. It started strong. I will admit, the one episode where they just went into place and started hating on each other, that one was definitely filler as fuck. Second one though, I didn't hate because they were just trying to build up character depth. It was lubing you up so that way they could pull your heartstrings, and then when they killed them off, well, you're going to hurt. Which they didn't do on that. Maybe that episode was filler too. None of them died. They wasn't even trying to lube you up. They just died. Alright. That episode sucked too. But then after that, it was hated for no reason. Like, let's see, the second to last episode. So,
TV shows are getting
wasn't as bad as everyone thought. And final episode, it was always going to be ending at the White House. And then with the comics, it was always going to end at the White House. Some people are saying, well, they promised us scorcher, which is true. I think that is a fair criticism. But The Boys, Homelander was just not going to instantly go to say he wants people to worship him. So he's not going to come around going pew 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 laser eyes. He's going to lube them up and then go on his timer. Like, you can see him starting to begin that timer during his speech. He was about to say, alright, for the people that are loyal to me, you're cool. But if you don't, you're going to suffer. And then Butcher came in. Yeah. And I will admit, the fight, yeah, there were some inconsistencies there. Because the show, Richard just showed him Homelander go to space for like 2 seconds, but had him go forever just to leave the White House. When they have the super soldier boy exploding thing. And I doubt how the way Soldier Boy's arc ended was so dumb as well. So yeah, I didn't think it was that bad though. So, but there is a very crazy epidemic. So without further ado, let's get into it.
increasingly TV shows are getting increasingly difficult to commit to, whether it be the sheer amount of shows available across like a dozen different streaming services, a show that your friends and family are telling you to watch, even though you probably won't watch it no matter how many times they ask you to. Most popular shows, hidden gems, shows that have been out, won't watch it no matter how many times they ask you to. Most popular shows, hidden gems, shows that probably won't watch it no matter how many times they ask you to. Most popular shows.
Okay, Game of Thrones. I've heard that finale was actually the worst out of all the shows that he's going to talk about.
Shows, hidden gems, shows that have been out for decades now at this point. There's just so much. But the ones that have been out, maybe not for decades, but ones that are completely finished, are usually the safer bets that I usually go with. For one, you won't have to sit around and wait 3 to 4 years for a new season. You won't have to wait around and see if it even gets renewed or not. But also because you get to see if the ending is worth it or not. Every time I'm watching a new show, whether it just be something that I want to watch or something that I'm making a video about, I get really nervous scrolling all the way to the ending here because it feels like, 8 or 9 times out of 10.
I will admit, if there's a show out there and it has a bad ending that I know about, I will not watch it. I'm being so dead ass. I'm not going to watch the show if the ending is bad. If a bunch of people said the ending is bad. Now, Stranger Things and The Boys, I was already watching those shows, so
This final episode rating and the season in general is gonna be far below its average. Now, of course, not all shows have bad endings. In a sea of badly written final seasons, there's, of course, your Breaking Bads, your Darks, so I'm not talking about those here, but I am talking about mainly a lot of recent shows, which just sets a terrible precedent going forward, because it seems like every few years now there's a new benchmark for worst final season and worst finale. And you would feel like writers would actively avoid trying to become that new benchmark of a bad finale, but with the amount...
I think that might be the problem. Writers so bad, we trying to avoid the bad ending parts. They just ended up making the bad endings.
Of bad final seasons that there have been, especially recently, it almost feels like writers don't know how to avoid this. So in this video, I'm going to go over a few really terrible final seasons and really bad finales, what went wrong with them, and how we can avoid this maybe going forward. So let's get into the video. First, if you enjoyed the video, if you enjoy the videos on this channel, make sure to like and subscribe. Sorry, I gotta do the YouTuber thing, but let's get into it.
You should like my video and subscribe too. Hey, fire intro.
So obviously, I cannot talk about bad final seasons and bad finales without first mentioning Game of Thrones. It's a show that I have talked about a lot over the past couple weeks and past couple months on this channel, but this is also maybe the most popular example of a bad final season. While the show was in decline in a few different ways throughout...
Apparently, out of all of them, it's like the worst one. Like, there was like a petition to like redo the final season. And what else? When people try to compare other shows to that, people are like, no. So
the final couple seasons, season 8 was really a different beast entirely. It was a shortened season with so much more story left to tell, which is always just a bad omen.
So you got so much story to tell, but it's your shortest season possible.
Rushed plot lines, meaningless twists, and butchered characters are really only the tip of the iceberg. A lot of the blame for the final season goes to the showrunners, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. Around season 7 of the show, it was announced that these two showrunners would actually be making their own Star Wars trilogy, and everybody at the time was actually pretty excited for that, but season 8 failed in such spectacular fashion that the David Benioff and D.B. Weiss Star Wars trilogy was quietly canceled. So to a lot of people, it kind of just seems like David and Dan wanted to do this Star Wars trilogy, so they rushed along season 8 and just kind of clapped their hands with it. They're like, hey, we're done, off to bigger and better things. But those bigger and better things just deservedly never came. There's tons of reasons why Game of Thrones failed. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on that, check out this video. But boiled down, it all comes out to be bad writing, which is a trend you'll see a lot on this list. Not long before Game of Thrones, there was Dexter. Another huge season 8 failure, but not for the same reason.
Was bad. Bro, I want to watch that one because of the memes, bruh. Come on, bruh.
Fun fact, this whole video actually started out as a list of bad season 8s of shows, but I could only come up with a few more, so it turned into this video instead. Now, the entire final season of Dexter, and really everything past season 4, which sounds a bit familiar, had also been slowly declining for a while, but the finale itself is known as one of the worst finales in the history of television. Why is that? Because the studio behind Dexter, Showtime, did not allow the writers to actually kill off Dexter. But if they knew that throughout the entire final season, it seems like they only changed the scripts in the series finale. Dexter kind of comes back on his entire character arc from the final season. There's a last-minute, weird, shocking death, and then he goes off to live as a lumberjack. And like I said at the time, this was known to be maybe the worst series finale of all time. And then Game of Thrones, luckily for Dexter, came along. But interestingly, Dexter isn't gone. In fact, Dexter is very much still around to this day because they had not one sequel series, not a prequel series that unfortunately got canceled, but 2 sequel series, the later of which is Dexter Resurrection and still going on. And honestly, Dexter Resurrection is really good. But this sets another really interesting precedent going forward, which is if fans and even if the writers don't like their ending, can they just keep on going with spin-off after spin-off until they get it right? Because when Dexter ended, it was obviously thought to be one of the worst finales, but then they came out with Dexter New Blood. And guess what? That was supposed to be like the, oh, here you go, here's the final entry for Dexter. People hated that ending too. So they made Dexter Resurrection. And so far, it's only been 1 season, but second season is coming out, I think, this year. So maybe the third time will finally be the charm for Dexter. Another terrible final season that is a little bit different than what I usually cover on the channel is How I Met Your Mother. To spend 8 seasons with your group of main characters hanging out at the bar, going from apartment to apartment to show their hijinks and shenanigans and love lives, to change that in the final season and have a good like 80% of that season take place at a hotel for 2 of the main characters' wedding, a wedding which ends in a divorce in the final episode, is certainly an interesting decision. But season 9 of How I Met Your Mother was also basically dead in the water as soon as it arrived. A lot of the cast members at the time seemed like they were done with the show, namely Jason Segel, who openly at the time talked about how much he didn't like his time on the show anymore and wanted it to be done, prompting the writers to have Marshall away from the group for about 50% of the season. Don't worry, he's since gone back on this and talked about how grateful he is for the show and that he liked his time. He's not just like an ungrateful actor, but at the time, 9 seasons in, it seemed like he was done. And looking back, it does also kind of seem like everybody else was done and that the show went on for maybe 3 seasons too long. So yeah, the final season was not very good, but it's the final episode that really gets under people's skin. But in the final episode, in actually like the final 5 minutes of the final episode, the show basically says, yeah,
5 minutes is all it took.
You know the title of the show, you know this entire journey that we've been on for 9 years. Well, let's just throw that in the trash because you know what? Ted is still in love with Aunt Robin. It was just such...
Alright, hopefully these fuckers stop showing up.
Whiplash. Everybody was shocked and surprised, but not in the way that the writers and the showrunner intended them to be shocked. It also made very little sense considering Ted and Robin had this conversation the season prior.
I think you know how you feel about me now, and I don't think time's gonna change that. Tell me. Do you love me?
No.
But the reason why this ending happened...
I was not expecting that. What the fuck? Just straight up said, and just laying out all his feelings, only for her to just go, no. Damn, that's tough. Although, I'd rather be that than a fake relationship, or you just buttering me up. And I'd rather hear that than a simple fake relationship and you lubing me up. Just deliver that punchline. I'd rather have that.
Change that. Tell me. Do you love me?
No.
But the reason why this ending happened the way that it did was because this was the ending that they had filmed all the way back during season 2 of the show. This was their planned ending the entire time. This was what they thought they were gonna do, and this was basically just their safety net because, you know, Justin Russo here was gonna grow up eventually. So they filmed this during the second season in the off chance that the show ever gets canceled. They could just resort to this ending. But the show wasn't canceled. And like I said, it went on for maybe 3 seasons too long. These characters and the natural progression of their arcs went in so many different directions than all the way back when they had this ending in season 2. Sure, in season 2, this ending would have made complete sense. It would have been probably fine. But to spend 9 years with these characters and then in the final 5 minutes of the episode, just kind of rip the rug out from under everybody and be like, yeah, the mother, she never mattered. So while it was cool that they had actually planned out an ending just in case anything ever happened, like look at How I Met Your Father, that show was canceled and you never learned who the father was. It was cool that they had done this years ago, but also because of how long the show went on, because it didn't get canceled, it left a very sour taste, I'll say, in a lot of people's mouths. But talking a bit more recently, let's talk about the big finale everybody was talking about a couple months ago, and that's, of course, Stranger Things. This season kind of made me stop talking about a couple months ago, and that's, of course,
Season 4, Vecna felt like he was someone to be reckoned with, their toughest challenge yet. Only for him and the Mind Flayer 2 to get bitch slap.
or Stranger Things. This season kind of made me stop and ask myself, are there certain shows, are there certain final seasons that are too big to be good? Seasons that are so huge and so hyped up that no matter what you do, you were never going to please even a majority of the audience. Does it have to do with...
I will admit, Stranger Things did kind of fell under that. It definitely got so much expectations.
Genre television? Does it have to do with the fan base, the theory crafting, the ships?
The fan base are part of blame, but also at the same time, when you drag out your seasons, that's also kind of on the creators of the show, not really the fans.
A dozen other things that go into what a fandom does that would make it so the final season could never be satisfying for anyone. Part of me wants to believe these things play some sort of a factor, but then another part of me realizes how bad the writing for season 5 of Stranger Things truly was. Again, I made a whole separate video on this back in January, but there were too many characters in Stranger Things season 5. They even added more new characters, which I'm pretty sure at one point they said they weren't gonna do, but whatever. A lot of the mysteries and character arcs set up were given less than satisfying conclusions. The stakes seemed non-existent. A lot of the horror elements and promises from the season before were altogether abandoned, and the season overall was just littered with these light bulb or comparison moments that seemed all too cheesy by the 20th time they happened. There was also this whole conformity gate thing that happened right around the final episode. People were convinced that the finale was so bad that it must have been a trick. It must have been a ploy, and that there was a secret 9th episode coming out. And I'm pretty sure I saw like a TikTok the other day. People are still talking about this. They still think it's gonna happen. And in the video, I said that, you know what, people are delusional. But I've kind of watched a few of those videos, and weirdly enough, the evidence has almost convinced me. There's contradictions and seemingly purposeful lines that seem to indicate it's not over. There's all this other evidence. You know what? As somebody who still believes that the Winds of Winter will eventually come out, do your thing, Stranger Things fans. You know, I'm gonna join you. I also think that there's gonna be a secret 9th episode. Maybe it'll be like a year from now. But you know what? I'll hold out hope with the rest of you. Even recently, Millie Bobby Brown said that she thinks 11 is alive, and she's kind of hurt that the rest of the cast said that she's dead. And truthfully, I'm just counting down the days until Stranger Things turns into Dexter, where we're gonna get a sequel series about one character, or I mean, even The Walking Dead actually might be more appropriate. There's going to be a sequel series about Steve, another one about Eleven and Mike, another one about, I don't know, Dustin and Dart. They're going to do spin-off after spin-off until, like Walking Dead and Dexter, the cow has been milked dry, but you know what? It'll get people to continue paying for Netflix. And another recent one, The Boys. The Boys is such an interesting show to me because...
That's not... The Boys was not that bad, bro.
It's a show I've watched since season 1, but it's never really a show that I got super invested in. I loved the first season. In fact, I might have made a video on it like way back in the day, but every subsequent season I was kind of just like, oh look, there's a new season of The Boys out. I'd wait till like 4 or 5 episodes come out and binge those, and then wait for the other episodes to come out before I binge those, maybe like a few weeks later. I don't know, it never really grabbed my full attention. So when the show started as a parody of superheroes and our culture as a whole, it was great. But right around the time Gen V came out and The Boys themselves...
Bro, I will say this. I wish we would start watching Gen V, so that way I can understand these characters before, or maybe some lore to understand to get ready for the Boys season finale, because I thought they were going to play a role. And then the final season happened. There was no point. There was no point in watching that show. The only point is, you know, the Homelander meme where he goes, nuh-uh. That's where that was from. And I'm always like, what episode was this? I've never seen it. It was in Gen V. It was like the only point, understanding.
Just kind of went around in circles in their character development, and nobody really progressed for like 3 seasons. The show was no longer a parody of superheroes and our culture or society as a whole. It was just another generic superhero show.
Also, another thing too, I will point out and say, this shit should have ended in season 3. What? Because how does the blast from season 3 was treated that everyone's going to die if they get impacted by it? But then in season 5, everyone fucking survives the blast. They just lose their fucking powers. Like, what was the whole point? That shit should end in 3, bro. Come on, bro.
Just fine. Superhero shows are good, a lot of them are, but it was no longer that clever. And with the final season spending entire arcs and episodes setting up another spin-off, the show became the very thing it sought to destroy and just became a typical superhero show. The cast themselves even had their own quarrels with the final season and the treatments of its characters and the time allotted to them versus the time being spent to continue The Boys as a franchise. I never watched Gen V. I don't think there's another spin-off for The Boys, but I'm not sure who was in Gen V that popped up in The Boys. I know there were multiple times that people would show up.
It's too, because Gen V was cool, but it made me want to watch the show. And then the last season happened, now I just don't care about it no more. I didn't even finish season 2, bro.
and it was treated like I was supposed to know who they were or supposed to remember them, and I didn't know if it was just that I forgot or that I just had genuinely never seen them before. Same thing with a lot of the previously on segments of the episodes. There were scenes and just entire moments that I was like, I don't think I ever saw that, but I'm not sure if it was because it had been so long since I had seen the previous season, or if it was from Gen V. I'm usually all for these sprawling, connected universes. Like with The Walking Dead, I could tell you, what they're referencing from this show, if it was in this show, whatever. I knew all that stuff. And so with The Boys, it kind of gave me a taste of my own medicine. It made me realize what being a casual fan of something is like and how off-put you can get when you don't recognize something or you don't recognize a character, but you also don't care to find out where it came from. When a show turns into a universe, but you were really just a fan of that show, you can be really off-put even just continuing with that series. Now, for the third entry on this list of disastrous final seasons that came out in the last year, we have Euphoria. Now, I gotta admit,
Euphoria. What do I have to say about this show? I never truly watched it. I just watched people react to it. Didn't plan on watching it. I think in high school I probably wanted to watch it, but as an adult, I really didn't want to watch it. Because it's a freaky ass show, and most of the show that these characters were in high school. So it didn't feel right. But during this season was out of high school, I'm like, okay, it wouldn't be as weird. And they definitely showed it was definitely... They at least had limitations when they were in high school. Now that they're adults, hey, all this restriction thrown out away. Let's just make Cindy Sweetie a sex doll. That's what it felt like from someone who hasn't watched the show, and just knowing from the outside. So like the first three seasons, I understand the plot, and I don't mind doing them a season outside of post high school world, because what are these character stories? What are they going to do? And I understand that this was the final season, which is understandable. Well, honestly, I haven't heard how people thought of it until now. So it sounds like this shit is bad.
I have never actually seen Euphoria, but I wanted to give it its own segment here because of how unique of a disastrous final season this really is. And this is just going off of articles that I've read online about it and stuff that I've heard from friends, but this season might take the cake for the worst final season of any show. If you look up the show Euphoria, the synopsis will tell you it's all about teenagers navigating their turbulent times throughout high school. So when I saw the trailer for season 3, this synopsis confused me. That's because season 3 didn't take place in high school.
I thought it was 4.
The wait between seasons 2 and 3 was over 4 years, and this is not a celebrity.
I will admit, it shouldn't have been 4 years. Everyone kind of knows what they... Once they're at least 4 years past high school, you at least have somewhat of an idea of what you're going to do, and you're going to try to do that. But come on.
Pretty drama channel by any means, but even just reading through some of the stuff that happened between the actors and why it took so long to film and why they wouldn't film scenes with each other is mind-blowing. So in this third season, you have a bunch of actors who have now supremely grown out of these roles, whether it be because they aged out of them or because they were now way too popular for this show. You have a bunch of side stories that were basically just giving the actors busy work, since a lot of them didn't want to film together, and an entire muddled story because the show just wasn't what it started out to be. It became something entirely different. This is such a unique branch of bad final seasons and bad finales, because just about everything that could go wrong went wrong here. The writing apparently wasn't very strong, the actors apparently seemed like they didn't want to be there, and when they were forced into scenes together, it felt weird. And to no one's surprise, this wasn't filmed as the final season, but like half the characters died. Everybody that you know from the show probably died. I don't know that for certain, but yeah, more than half of your characters dying probably means it turned into the final season. Bad final seasons have been around for a very long time, and whether they try and fix it with a sequel series, the stain of a bad finale and a bad final season will always be remembered. And there's so many others that I didn't even touch on in this video, largely because, like I said in the opening, if a show has a bad ending going into it, then it makes me lose interest in wanting to invest my time into said show, and here's a few examples of that. The show You on Netflix. While I did watch the first 2 seasons of the show and thought they were actually pretty good, I never picked it back up again, and apparently that was for good reason. Apparently the finale destroyed the reputation of the Joe Goldberg character and maybe a lot of other characters, but in this case, this is actually maybe a finale I'd be interested in seeing myself, because the character of Joe Goldberg was always, you know, your typical Joker, Jordan Belfort, Walter White, Patrick Bateman, even Dexter to an extent, and the people who idolize these characters just walk away with the wrong message from it. And I feel like Joe Goldberg was very much in that conversation. So much so that the actor himself had huge problems with playing him.
Joe's a murderer, right? I love no one likes to call him that. Everyone loves to say stalker. He's not just a stalker.
He's incredibly twisted. He's damaged.
He's a murderer. Just want to remind.
What would you like to see happen to Joe?
Yeah.
So to anybody who has seen all of You, maybe put a spoiler tag in the comment, but let me know if it's just, if people don't like this finale because he dies or something, or if there's more to it. Killing Eve is another show that, to my surprise, has the lowest rated finale out of any of the shows on this list that I've talked about, even below Game of Thrones. And honestly, that is almost impressive. That almost makes me want to watch the show. But I've only ever watched one episode of the show. And
if I'm going to watch the Stranger Things, I mean not Stranger Things, the Game of Thrones show, it's just to see how good they build up the show, just to see it burn, see how badly they fucked up. I will admit, if your show is really that bad, you can kind of get me to watch it, but you won't get me too into it.
And surprisingly, it was my screenwriting class in college about how to do a pilot.
It's just going to be me laughing at how bad it is. That's how it is. When you know something's bad and you watch it, you just fucking laugh.
Episode properly. So, wow, things just must have really changed. The Umbrella Academy apparently has a worse final season that will rival any of the others on this list. Yet another show that I watched, I think, the first 2 seasons of, but just never picked back up. I guess good thing I didn't. Yellowstone is another weird example. Spoiler ahead if you ever want to watch this show, but when Kevin Costner wanted to leave and they had to kill him off because he said he wasn't going to come back, that is always a bad omen. And apparently him leaving the show made it such a disaster that instead of continuing the show without him, they made 2 other spin-offs on top of the 2 or 3 that the Yellowstone universe already has. I actually don't know. I haven't seen a lot of Yellowstone, but it seems like it's more complicated than even The Walking Dead. A show that was on my watch list for years was The Handmaid's Tale. I never started watching it because a bunch of other stuff just kind of jumped in front of the list, or I'd rewatch How I Met Your Mother for the 20th time, but seeing the ending result, it's moved even lower on my watch list. I don't know, maybe by the time I get to rewatch 30 of How I Met Your Mother, who knows. There's so many more that I can't even touch upon, not to mention upcoming final seasons like The Bear and Outer Banks, or final seasons in the years to come like From, and maybe in like 10 years Severance. And it really just makes you think, what shows that are on right now are gonna be remembered and be a part of this list one day, or which ones will actually have good finales? Will there even be any shows with good finales given the track record of even just the shows that have ended this year? With the combination of uninspired writing, fan expectations, and long waits between seasons to generate even more excitement, it seems like the choice nowadays is to watch these huge shows that have terrible final seasons or finales, or to watch something that is maybe a bit underappreciated, but will probably be canceled after one season. The only real safe bet is to watch shows that are known, complete, and have solid endings. That, or, watch How I Met Your Mother again, despite its horrible ending. I guess we're living in the time now where we're seeing the downsides of how big and popular television has become. 20 or 30 years ago, television and movies were two entirely separate entities. Television could be watched at home because it was nothing special. You could just watch it on that little gray box in your kitchen, but movies had to be seen on the big screen if you wanted the best experience. But now, it almost seems like television is bigger than movies. Movie theaters are dying, and horror movies are really the only thing that are getting people to go and see them. That's a whole different conversation. But now people will buy 80-inch screens in their home to watch these hugely cinematic shows like a lot of the ones that I mentioned on this list. But I guess what comes with the advancement of television and all these really cinematic shows is that the endings will certainly be hit or miss. So I guess in the comments, let me know what shows that I didn't...
Hey man, W video, anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed that video. Without further ado, nothing there to say, so I'll see y'all later. Peace.